Let me start. This is one of the disaster prevention activities of the Ministry of Security, a proposal for earthquake countermeasures in the Shimanego-Okahal. The goal is a proposal to secure a person's SOS call as early as possible before the 72-hour barrier to allow people to live without water after an earthquake. For example, immediately after the earthquake directly below the capital city, using the radio of 50 Japan activated by the country and this radio of the hall, I want to secure the opportunity and time to deliver the last message from my living husband in Tokyo to the concerned family in the hall. The red thread telephone of the fate of the radio, which will surely be passed down to the descendants. We cannot prevent earthquakes, but we can predict and prepare even if the hall is crushed. If you have any questions or comments, please follow this explanation. In addition, it would be appreciated if your home would be helpful. This slide is a proposal in line with the National Policy of Maintenance Plan of Wi-Fi Environment for Disaster Prevention etc., which is decided by Cabinet in 2014 and recommended by the country. As we can see from the disasters that have occurred in Japan up to now, such as the 311 Tohoku earthquake, we could not use the telephone when the earthquake occurred, but we could only make calls and communications using the internet. The fastest light on the internet and the radio during disasters are very useful for calling and communicating. So we will propose this optical line and radio. The light and the radio that connect your life. Intensity 7 was arranged among the earthquakes up to now. Especially since the Tohoku earthquake, the occurrence interval has become short recently, including large and small. The photograph on the right is a famous castle in the world, 1 foot of the Kumamoto Castle leading through 5-floor corridor. This Ishigaki collapsed in 4/14 aftershocks. You can imagine how much the Yushiku predicted seismic intensity 6 strength is. The photograph in the lower left is the Kumamoto tent village, but for those whose owner was affected, it will be a tent for at least 72 hours until Yushiku High School gymnasium is ready to be accepted. City Traffic Disaster Prevention Section said that night in the car at the time of disaster was dangerous. Shelter Administration Manual of Prefecture and Yushiku City. Unfortunately, there was nothing written about the radio needed to make an SOS call. In addition, Yushiku City does not plan radio of the first refuge. There are no plans for radio at Yushiku High School in the second shelter. If there is no radio, there is no way to talk or communicate. This proposal will help you in the future. By the way, this is a plan derived from the 4Q in the lower screen. The next question is where to install it. I thought with the matter of the roof deterioration, which is the reason of the hall rebuilding. The cause of aging is trees covered on the roof and algae caused by damage caused by shade, rain or snow. The beams of the attic are rotten. In other words, when a big earthquake occurs, This hall will completely collapse, and what will remain is the culture room that has recently been added. So it would be best to use a light and wireless space for a culture room that is resistant to the effects of earthquakes and has a certain size. Based on that, we added this old, new, Shimanagaoka self-government hall light line image figure. This figure has many technical contents, so I will refrain from explaining this time. Of the present roof. The rotten beams in the attic show that most of the longitudinal streaks on the large roof are distorted. I heard that the beams were so rotten that they could not hit nails. Picture of the previous picture seen from the opposite direction. You can see that the area under the branches of the trees is particularly damaged. Next, we will display an animation about the equipment to be prepared in the old hall and the new hall in the response to the earthquake. It is a supplement before that. Cameras are usually for crime prevention, but since information can also be sent out at the time of the disaster, as in the past disaster case, we can also expect more volunteers to assist in recovery. Unfortunately, the mobile phone in the lower right, known as Galaxy, cannot use the radio. In addition, the radio wave stops in 5 years after the Olympics and cannot be used completely. Therefore, we recommend that you get used to the smartphone as soon as possible. Next is about important expenses and this value. In the first year, the initial cost of 85,597 yen and the operating cost of 74,620 yen will be incurred. After that, it will be only the operation cost, so it will be 26 yen per month per household. This value is hoped to connect life. The building is a picture of the first candidate, Flet's Hikari, attached to the current hall. The cable passes from the telephone pole, and a wireless router at the center of the building is installed by a vendor. Other cameras, charging equipment and Google Drive will be added to the security department. The quake control of the lower left of the building is a mechanism that prevents the optical cable from breaking during an earthquake. This is what I add. 4 years later, because the demolition and construction will begin for replacement, Flet's Hikari will cancel. When a new hall is, we will add the second candidate NURO light. I will explain later why you switch candidates. Number 1. The building in the center is a picture of the first candidate Flet as light added to the current hall. Contractors install a wireless router in the center of the building, passing the optical cable from the telephone pole. Number 2. The security department does additional work for other cameras, charging equipment and Google Drive. Damping at the bottom left of the building is a mechanism to keep the light cables from breaking during an earthquake. This adds me 4 years later. Rebuilding, demolition and construction will begin, so Flet as light will cancel. Number 4. We will put the second candidate NURO light when new halls are finished. I will explain later why you switch vendors. Let's start the animation. Quake occurred at the epicenter. The new hall is also shaking. Breaker of the new hall has fallen automatically. This is to prevent the fire with restoration of electricity. Quake occurred, country and local government activated unified SSID for wireless address for disaster 50 Japan. By this, Radio of 50 Japan flies at the same time in public institution, convenience store, transportation, etc. Outage occurred under the influence of the earthquake. Start the generator. This will turn on all the devices related to the internet and radio, and the radio waves will fly again. I think that everyone will be gathered in the hall one after another. The charging equipment is prepared for people who have lost their charging cable, etc., and have become a power refugee. This allows for quick charging. Members of the family who are working in Tokyo will be returning refugees. First protect your body and then search for the 50 Japan with your own smartphone. When you enter it, you can use the radio without a password. You will be able to reach the waiting family member at the hall at this point. The details of the cost. It is for the interested person. 1 to 3 and 2 are risks that accompany the use of the internet. 1 and 2 can be fully supported by the antivirus application and Google. 3. China risk depends on the U.S. intermediate trade war, so the future and take action become a little bit. Why change to NURO light in a new hall? It is expected that many people will get used to smartphones in the old hall, including those of smartphone debut. Because we thought that the world's fastest NURO light was the best to cope with it. Reason is that if you have any serious problems with the optical line you are using, then you want to keep the physical wiring of the old line to be able to respond promptly. The viewpoint a little from here. This compared Google Map and Yushiku City large-scale Earth preparation map of city publication. I talked with the city building housing division. He said the following comment. The red circle in the housing complex and the blue circle in front of the hall, a large valley-filled embankment. Originally this place has settled the lowland where the water of the brook flows into the reservoir in the present park and has reached the present. The blue circle was not listed because it is not a predetermined residential area for listing on the map. As one of the recent earthquake disasters, a lot of damage occurred by landslide called slip, which occurred when the embankment or slope that buried the valleys and swamps collapsed on a large scale. It will lead to the prevention of disasters by checking and paying attention to whether there is any change in the housing area surrounding retaining wall, wholly, on a regular basis or by yourself. Because the location of New Hall is close to the blue circle, I think that the ground survey results before the rebuilding of the conference after 4 years will also be one reference. Earthquake card of Shimanegaoka. About left screen. This screen is each numerical value that Ibaraki Prefecture predicted damage of earthquake and city announced. There are 7 earthquakes that are predicted in the future. If it is limited to Ibarra Prefecture, southern directly type with the highest degree of influence among them. Yushiku earthquake intensity 6, strong probability will be 80%. In addition, in the case of the direct types earthquake, there is no time to be suddenly shaken by a large shaking and hidden under a desk. About the right screen, each numerical values is simply calculated based on the left screen. The item of unanticipated situation is item that do not include into the prefecture prediction, and it is a problem peculiar to this housing complex. About an unanticipated situation. Step 1. This housing complex is an environment surrounded by forests and forests. Step 2. For example, when a large earthquake occurs in the middle of the night, an electrification fire occurs because the roof fall occurs. It burns off to the overgrown dead plants. As a result, the spread of fire to the entire housing complex spreads, and the possibility of a fire whirlwind may not be zero. Step 3 and Step 4 and Step 5. If landslides occur at the same time in the both area, no one can rush to the hall and cannot extinguish the initial fire. So I installed a seismic breaker in this hall. I have circulated at the end of June. I recommend that you install a seismic breaker so that your home will not be at the source of this fire. For reference only, if you are interested, please take a look. The left is the material related to this presentation. The right is a document about the policy of the country radio in the prefecture and city. Inside the blue circle finally entered an era where earthquakes can be predicted using satellites and electronic reference points. Please try the 1-month trial version application in the homepage below. I was impressed by Murai's words. I want to save the lives of many people by predicting earthquakes in this application. The red circle confirmed the current status of the city, but both were unexpected. About the right side, the blue circle directly confirmed the status of 2 other municipalities, but I was impressed. The pink circle thinks that both our city and follow as apprentices. Now I mentioned earlier that in the animation, please search for 50 Japan. But if you use one of the 2 apps of number 26, you will be automatically connected when you enter the wireless area. This is the proposal from the security department. Have a relationship. Thank you very much.